What are you gonna do when we have our own?
Guys, we all know that Tammy Slaton just got married to a man named Caleb a few months ago, and from what we know, Tammy and Caleb seem to be very happy together, and we all thought that he seemed like a pretty good guy, but now some really weird things are coming out about him, like the fact that he's been jumping around between hospitals and rehab centers for years now, and that he left his home state of Indiana and followed Tammy to Ohio just because he wanted to meet her, and then proposed to her after only a few weeks, and so much more. You guys, seriously, you are not going to believe what just came out about this guy. This is so much crazier than we ever could have imagined, and now that we're seeing it all play out on TV, I think we're all realizing just how weird Tammy and Caleb's entire marriage has been so far. I mean, let's look at the facts here. Caleb literally followed Tammy to the rehab facility that she was at, and he found out who she was from the show, and then got transferred from a different rehab facility to her rehab facility because he wanted to meet her, and she said it like it was a good thing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it is a crazy coincidence that they seem to have similar health issues at the same time. Literally, Caleb was on a ventilator during the exact same week that Tammy was in November of 2021, and that Caleb was inspired by Tammy's own health journey to get, healthy on his own, but I don't think he needed to follow her to Ohio to do that. And then when he was finally healthy enough to leave his room, he immediately went to find her and meet her, and then just 3 weeks later, they were engaged, and literally before anyone in Tammy's family could even meet him, and 2 weeks after that, they were getting married, and none of Tammy's family even met him until the day before the wedding, and it's not like their meeting went well, like at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's a bad guy. He seems super down to earth, funny, and just like a nice guy. I'm definitely rooting for him and Tammy in their love and even health journeys, but there's definitely something a little weird going on with him. Like, why did he seek out Tammy? Was it the fame or the money, or was it love at first sight when he saw her on TV? Because you can say that they just randomly fell in love, but he literally went to this specific rehab facility for her, and within 5 weeks of meeting her, they were married. So there must be some ulterior motive here. And now, 4 months after the wedding, Tammy's finally giving us some insight into what their marriage looks like. But first, we have to talk about what their marriage currently looks like in the first place, because there's an elephant in the room that Tammy hasn't even acknowledged yet, and that's that she's out of rehab, and Caleb appears to not be. So don't get me wrong, her siblings have brought it up on the show, like what would they do if Tammy got out of the facility before Caleb, because Tammy was clearly a lot further along in her weight loss journey and would most likely be leading before Caleb, but Tammy and Caleb both just completely blew it off and said that the goal was for Caleb to get out of rehab at the same time as Tammy, but honestly, anyone with eyes could see that that wasn't happening, and it was just clearly not a realistic goal, but they had no backup plan for what would happen if that was the case, so Tammy got out of rehab in January, and Caleb definitely did not, so we think. And I personally thought that she might find a place to live in the same city as, the rehab facility, since, her husband lives there still, but she didn't. Instead, she immediately drove home to Kentucky, and now let's just look at the map for a second. Tammy's hometown is in Dixon, Kentucky, and that is 7 hours from the rehab facility in Gibsonburg, Ohio, and Tammy can't even drive yet, so she's supposedly working on being able to drive again now that she's out of rehab, but from what we know, she isn't, so I don't know how she's even seeing him. I mean, do you think she's even seen him since, she left rehab almost 2 months ago? If I had to guess, I'd probably say she hasn't. And I mean, it's like, who would even have taken her to see him? And I think it's safe to say that Amy doesn't have the time, since she's supposedly leaving Michael and trying to take care of their 2 boys. But still, even given all this, Tammy is somehow giving an update on her marriage, and I don't know how she has anything to update us on. I mean, but from what she said, it's pretty funny, all things considered. So she claims that she loves waking up every morning, seeing his face, and seeing his face every night before she goes to bed, which I just don't understand, because they live 7 hours apart as far as we know, but I guess it's possible through FaceTime, maybe? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it definitely worries me that Tammy and Caleb don't know when, if ever, that Caleb will be able to come home. And, Chris said it best on the show. Tammy has been given a second chance at life. She really has. And guys, I am so incredibly happy for her. I mean, she's lost enough weight now that she's well on her way to being able to live the life of a person at a normal weight. And that did not seem like it was going to be the case in November of 2021 when she literally almost didn't make it. But the second that she got this second chance at life, she met Caleb, who, may not have the same outcome that Tammy has, sadly. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. If Caleb doesn't make the changes that he needs to make and loses the weight that he needs to lose, it's very possible that he could never leave the facility, at least not anytime soon. And just like Chris said again, he's listened to Tammy give him the same excuses that Caleb gave him over and over again for years. So is Caleb committed to his weight loss like Tammy is? And what will happen if he's never able to leave the facility? Will they make it? Will they get a divorce? Will they ever even see each other again? And even more importantly, what if he doesn't lose the weight and falls off the wagon again? Will he bring Tammy down with him? I mean, Tammy is obviously in a pretty vulnerable place right now. She needs people around her that are going to encourage her to keep up with her weight loss, not people who are going to encourage her to fall off the wagon with them. And obviously, we don't know what's going to happen, but there are definitely some concerns when you're dealing with two people who have the same issues surrounding food and weight loss, and the fact they both need to encourage the other to stay on track, literally because their lives depend on it. So don't get me wrong, this is probably a better situation than any of her past boyfriends on the show, who definitely just wanted her to gain weight and stay unhealthy, even though they knew it was literally, awful for her and could take her life. So at least they're in a better place than that. But it definitely is kind of concerning that things could take a turn at any given moment. But what do you guys think about all this? I mean, do you think that Caleb might be good for Tammy and her health? Or do you think that it could possibly be dangerous for both of them if, either of them lose the motivation to keep going? And do you think there's anything suspicious about their relationship? Or do you think that they genuinely have a great connection? Guys, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. I will say there has been so much heat and so much negative talk about how Caleb did follow her there. And it is a little bit weird, not gonna lie, a little creepy. But, definitely compared to the last two guys, he has what appears to be better intentions. He also appears to have a really good heart, and I think he is kind of adorable and funny and just, I am rooting for them. I think it's a little creepy. I think it's very much so rushed, but I will say two things. I'm rooting for them, and I will say this too, we have not seen Tammy this genuinely, consistently happy in a very long time. So yes, I want this thing to keep going, and I am rooting that he makes it out there and that he comes down to Kentucky and they live a happy life together. I am super, super, super rooting for them. But guys, I want to hear from you, so let me know what you think in the comments down below.